Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? I've been asking everybody this week, I'll ask you, so the Saints head into their bye. They're 5 games in. They're 3-2. Based on what your expectation was through these first 5 games, did they exceed it? Did they meet it? Did they fall short of it?
3-2 was right about where I expected. However, individually, I'm 1-4 predicting the Saints games this season. I predicted they would lose to New England and Green Bay, and they would beat Carolina and the Giants. I finally got one right, so I'm riding a hot streak right now. But I will also say this. I don't know if this is true for every team in the NFL. It's definitely true as long as I've covered the Saints. Picking the individual games is futile. I mean, their best game of the season last year was at Tampa Bay when, they win 38-3, and then, they'll have a dud like they did a couple years ago at home against the 1-8 Falcons. So, the individual games don't matter. But, yeah, a 3-2 team right now, not only is that probably what I would have predicted, I think they should be okay with that. 4-1 would have been glorious, considering all the injuries, suspensions, COVID, hurricane evacuations, everything they've been dealing with. 3-2 with a chance to be a lot healthier down the stretch is gives them a real chance.
There was also earlier this week a list of transactions that they released Cody Parkey to IR. They signed kicker Brian Johnson. There was a few others. They released Desmond Trufant. Let's work through a couple of those. What should we make of them? First of all, signing Brian Johnson, is that an indicator that maybe Will Lutz isn't going to be ready coming off the bye?
Well, I mean, he from how I've heard it from sources is hopeful to potentially return in week 7, but that's a best case scenario. Could be a week or two beyond that. So I don't know for sure why they decided they had to go sign Brian Johnson at the beginning of the bye week. If they might have known more at the beginning of next week, it might be that is a player they specifically wanted to secure since they've gone through a lot of the other kickers and they know what they want at that position now. But yeah, I don't think they would do that if they knew Will Lutz was coming back. So added to the fact that it was already kind of 50-50 whether he would kick in the Seattle game, this makes me think it's probably less than 50-50 that he will. But I know he is coming back very soon after week 7 if he is not on the field in that game.
And then what about Desmond Trufant? It's funny, Mike, how we spent so much time talking over the summer, just angst about the cornerback position and how they just had to add someone there. And I'll be damned, man, like they've figured it out and been really good.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the real hilarious part is that they make this big trade for Bradley Roby and he can't get on the field because Debo is playing so well.
Right.
But then you add to that Ken Crawley is probably going to come back from injured reserve. And, there's just not a real need for Trufant. And, look, he didn't look bad when they had him. I think in an alternate universe where they don't make that trade or a Debo doesn't pan out, he could have played some quality snaps for them. But, yeah, I mean, the position that was maybe the thinnest on their entire roster, or so we thought heading into the season, has gotten so rich that they now can release Desmond Trufant. It reminds me of that report that the Ravens are shopping running backs right now because they signed so many running backs that they don't know what to do with them all.
One of them being Latavius Murray.
Yeah.
Murray,
and Devontae
present.
Freeman, two Saints cast-offs. They're probably talking trade with the Saints who need a running back right now.
I just wanted to say Latavius.
In a hurry in this
I just want to say Latavius Murray to make Musso hit the drop.
Murray, present.
There it was. Mike, are you not familiar with our Latavius Murray drop?
Murray, present.
I don't think I knew that.
Oh, okay. So that's from a show called Flight of the Conchords. And for as long as Latavius...
Very well. Flight of the Conchords.
Okay.
Big fan.
Okay. So every time that we would say Latavius Murray...
Murray, present.
Musso hits the Murray drop.
All right. I like it.
Yeah. So I was very
Murray
sad.
with his comb-over orange hairdo.
Yes. I was very sad when Latavius Murray got traded.
Murray, present.
Because it basically meant we're going to have to kill that drop. But not anymore.
Well, you didn't have to.
Amen.
Just came back 3 times.
He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett. Where are the Saints? Well, this is a very obvious question. It's at receiver, where they're still the thinnest and in most need.
Yes.
Is it safe enough to say that Mike Thomas, Tre'Quan Smith coming back, that solves that issue?
Solves is a big word.
Okay.
Helps, aids, assists maybe. But look, when we thought Michael Thomas and Tre'Quan Smith were going to be healthy, I listed receiver as what I thought was their number 2 need this offseason, before the draft and before free agency. I think they needed that Emmanuel Sanders type along with Thomas and Tre'Quan Smith. And they never did it. That slot receiver, the classic Willie Snead role, Adam Humphries was out there for a while. Jameis Winston had a good relationship with him. I thought they needed that all off season, even when I thought they were going to have Thomas and Tre'Quan Smith. So I think that's still what they're lacking. Look, maybe there's not room for another one, because I think Marquez Callaway and Deontay Harris belong on the field, and now that's 4 receivers that we're talking about. But we know Jameis Winston can hit that home run pass. We know he can hit that deep ball to Deontay Harris, and he can hit that up for grabs ball to Marquez Callaway. We have not seen him work the middle of the field. We haven't seen him work traffic a lot, either by design or because those aren't the throws he's looking for, because the receivers aren't painting the right picture. So although I don't think Michael Thomas only runs slant patterns, I think he'll be huge because he'll be a guy who can work the middle of the field. But we haven't seen his tight ends being guys he throws to a lot. I don't know if that was ever Tre'Quan Smith's strength. So I think it'll help, but I still don't see a ton of guys getting open on 3rd and 7 for him or 3rd and 5 for him. So I think that's going to have to be both the receivers coming back, but also Sean Payton and Jameis Winston figuring it out.
He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett. Kenny Stills has actually made somewhat of an impact. I don't know if he's got a role moving forward. We'll see. But what about the injuries, Mike? Like, let's maybe go through these and whatever you do know or what you do know that you could tell us. We can start with Mike Thomas. I mean, should we expect to see him against Seattle?
Yeah, look, there's some mystery on the specifics on all these guys. I wrote a story kind of going through all of them for tomorrow, and I don't have exact dates. I don't have exact dates on all of them, but honestly, I think there's a chance that every single one of them is back in October, including Michael Thomas. We were hearing some pretty good things. We got to see him a little while we were in Texas when we were all sort of sequestered together. We know he's been rehabbing with the team. We know Sean Payton called him ahead of schedule at one point. We know that when they placed him on PUP, they said they were doing it to give him ample time to recover, when maybe they could have pushed it and gotten him back in week 4. They thought, let's give him time to fully recover. And I have not heard a single whisper of any setbacks or anything. No reason to doubt it. So I would be surprised if we don't see him back in practice next week, the first week he's eligible. But we do also have to keep in mind, he has not practiced in 2021, or at least not since their playoff loss to Tampa Bay in January of 2021. They didn't have OTAs, they didn't have minicamp. When he showed up for that minicamp, they immediately decided he needed surgery. So I can't imagine that you can take 11 months off football, have major ankle surgery, and go right back to playing a full-time role that week. I'm sure there will be a ramp-up period. I don't know what that ramp-up period will look like and how long it will take before he's at full speed.
After Thomas, who do you think is the most valuable to return among all the players that are still out?
Well, I think the second best player that has been missing is Teron Armstead. I think the third or fourth best player is probably David Onyemata or Eric McCoy. And I mean, I think if I did not go pen to paper and rank the Saints players, but I think all 4 of those guys are in their top 10. I think McCoy and Onyemata might be, 8th and 9th or 8th and 10th or something like that in some order. So we're talking about 4 of their top 10 players who've been out of the lineup. That's huge. But importance, if Marcus Davenport is going to come back and look like he looked in the preseason and week 1, they sure do need a pitcher over there. They're second to last in the NFL in sacks right now. So he could make a huge impact. And you could make a case for Will Lutz being the most important missing player because, they specifically in part lost that Giants game, and it was an overtime game, and they missed field goals in that game, and Sean Payton admitted his play calling was thrown off, not knowing if he could trust his kicker. They missed 2 extra points this past week. It's throwing off, exactly how conservative or how aggressive they can be on offense. That was really important too. So we're not just talking about, they have injuries, and then some other team will say, so do we. These are, I didn't mention Quan Alexander. These are 8 really pivotal injuries.
which is kind of exciting, though, right? Because you're going to get all those guys
Yeah,
back.
exactly.
So then
Exactly.
let's end it with this. You get all of those guys back. You look like the roster you were supposed to be from the onset. What's it at 3? We know now they're 3-2 and we have a large sample size. What's the ceiling for this team?
Well, I thought before we knew about any of those injuries or suspensions, before the Michael Thomas news, the David Onyemata news, the Will Lutz news, I think I was predicting them to be about an 11-6 team,
Oh, wow.
maybe a 10-7 team, a playoff team, but, not a surefire team. So I think they can get back to that being a fair prediction. But I will say this, I feel better about their defense now than I did then. I feel probably a little worse about their receiving core than I did, but I feel better about their defense. I thought their defense was going to take a step back this season because of all the guys they lost. But just the mission they were on at the beginning of the year, how good Demario Davis looks, how good the safeties look, how good Marshawn Lattimore looks, how good that second cornerback position has been, how they've been able to survive at linebacker and defensive tackle with the new guys. I feel a little better about their defense than I did at the beginning of the year. So I think it would be a disappointment if this is not a playoff game.
I would tend to agree at this point. I'm actually pretty geeked that you said you thought they were an 11-win team. I was thinking more like a 9-8. Hopefully they get to 10-7. But man, 11.
Well, that was before we knew Michael Thomas needed ankle surgery. That was before we knew Onyemata was going to miss time. But my thinking was the two biggest fears about this team were the quarterback position and Michael Thomas missing time. Mm-hmm. Well, last year their quarterback play was not great. Drew Brees would admit he was only healthy for one game, and Michael Thomas missed more than half of last season, and they were still a 12-4 team. They've still got maybe one of the best offensive lines in football. They've still got a top 5 defense. They've still got a lot of, they've still got Alvin Kamara. They've still got a lot of good things. So I didn't see a huge drop-off coming. And like we said, I think the biggest concern anyone had was cornerback, and I don't think that's nearly as big of a concern anymore.
He is Mike Triplett, ESPN.com. He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett. Read his stuff. Follow him on Twitter at Mike Triplett. Always appreciate it, man. Thanks for a couple of minutes. Enjoy the bye week.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.